my friends didn't invite me to their wedding, then made me the bad guy when I couldn't attend at the last minute. A friend, Mark, 28, in my circle of friends met Lisa, 28, about 5 years ago, and they immediately hit it off. Everybody instantly fell in love with Lisa because she's friendly and really fun to hang out with. They were everybody's favorite couple and really made our hangouts much more fun. We all knew they were perfect for each other. They both made our crew that much better. The engagement was expected, but it was much welcome news. Our friend's circle was buzzing about the inevitable wedding. Then the invitations went out. You know those save-the-date magnets that people send out? Well, it really sucked seeing them on everybody else's fridge when I visited friends, knowing I didn't get one and wasn't invited. Feeling left out really sucks, but it gets worse. I completely understand how stressful wedding planning is, and I believe nobody should feel obligated to invite people they don't want to their wedding. It's their day and their ceremony, and they shouldn't have to have people there whom they don't want. I didn't cause a fuss or express to anyone that I was hurt, that I felt excluded from the wedding, and by extension, excluded from the group. I didn't want to be looked upon in an even worse way than I felt I was apparently being seen. But one friend actually stood up for me when their wedding came up in conversation and people talked about booking flights and rooms. It was a destination wedding in New York City. Eventually, I was asked if I had booked yet. I said that my girlfriend and I weren't invited. Nobody could believe it, but I insisted that I wasn't upset because I know how situations like this can go. I didn't want to cause trouble because then the happy couple might resent me. Then I'd be the bad guy. I heard through other friends that my friend Tracy thought it was really messed up that I wasn't invited. She and I never spoke about how I wasn't invited to the wedding, but she really felt a certain way about it. So, a month before the destination wedding, I got a text from Mark basically saying sorry for forgetting to send an invite, but that they would love to have us come to the wedding. It was way too late at that point for me. I couldn't get away from my job, and I hadn't had a chance to put money aside for a year for an expensive NYC destination wedding like everyone else did. I didn't even get a save the date. Every flight and hotel room was unaffordable for me. There were no rooms left where everyone else was staying. Obviously, it was too late for that. I texted him back that I couldn't make it. The wedding came and went, and I felt bad about everything. I saw the Facebook pictures of my friends, all having the time of their lives. It looked like a great wedding. There was even a picture of just the group of friends labeled the crew. Honestly, I don't think I've ever felt so left out. It really made me feel worthless and unwanted. So, naturally, the typical thought surfaced, they don't like you. They think you're annoying. They think you're a. If you can't identify the schmuck in a group of friends, that means you're it. They think you try way too hard to be nice and think you're a phony. Then, as if it couldn't get any worse, Lisa messaged me on Facebook asking why I didn't RSVP and said they missed me at the wedding. RSVP? RSVP? Doesn't one have to be invited in order to RSVP? Everybody got a year to prepare between getting save the dates and actual wedding invitations. I got a text message a month before the wedding. Just as I feared, I was being made out to be the bad guy. Even though I had made a point to keep my feelings to myself and play it cool, I didn't say this to her, as usual, because I knew how I would end up looking. I actually apologized for. I don't even know what. But I made a point to mention how I spoke with Mark about it. I also made sure to compliment the wedding pictures and say it looked like fun. I did everything I could in that conversation to make it easier on her. And, of course, now I feel like a total schmuck. That was this past summer, and I haven't seen them since. I feel like that's it for me in the group now. I see some of the friends in our group every now and then, but everything feels different now. None of them even responded to my birthday party Facebook invite this month. I feel like things are being said behind the scenes, and I feel completely out of the loop. It felt like a passive-aggressive message, perhaps implying that Mark and Lisa never actually liked me. My fiancé gets along great with Lisa, and she's just confused. Seeing her confusion just makes my heart break even more because she's a sweetheart who's never offended anybody in her life. I wish I could break it to her that I'm just the guy in the group whom Mark and Lisa think sucks, but I don't know how. And I feel like a complete loser who deserves this. I'll always appreciate Tracy for sticking up for me. She may never know how awesome it feels hearing about how she told everybody it was messed up that I was left out. I haven't even spoken to her, or anybody for that matter, about how the whole thing made me feel. You were the first to hear about it because I didn't want it to appear like I'm making a stink and become even more disliked. This whole thing just sucks. I feel like I don't have friends anymore. To make it worse, soon I'll have a wedding of my own, and I'm afraid I won't have any friends there, except for Tracy, of course. How am I supposed to handle who I invite so it doesn't seem like I'm leaving people out for petty revenge? How the hell do I navigate a toxic situation that I had no hand in creating? I still feel like I'm in the dark or could be overreacting. What the hell? TLDR, friends forgot or chose not to invite me to their wedding. After a friend stuck up for me, I was invited via text message with little notice. I had to decline, then was asked why I didn't RSVP and told that I was missed. Soon I'll have my own wedding to plan and don't feel like I have any friends to invite. I don't know if I should invite certain people or how to even approach the situation I didn't create. Dude, you clearly tell them you are not respected like the others. Cut them out. This is about self-respect. Find new friends. Don't turn back. Opie, thanks for reading and responding. Yeah, I've been thinking. I guess I can have my younger brother be the best man and just not have groomsmen, considering the circumstances. It's just how I did everything I could to avoid looking like the bad guy. Yet here we are. I'm the bad guy regardless of anything I did. Gosh, that totally sucks. I would be hurt too. Do you think maybe Mark was in charge of sending invites to his friends and forgot? Or it got lost in the mail? I had an invite returned to me 1 month after I sent it. But thankfully, I'd sent a save the date and sent my invites super early, so it ended up being fine. But if I hadn't, one of my cousins might have incorrectly thought she was excluded. It sounds like Lisa at least thought you were sent an invite if she was upset you didn't RSVP. You actually did RSVP by texting Mark back, but it sounds like she thought you'd been sent an RSVP response card. Opie. Oh yeah, it could just be a simple misunderstanding, but word seemed to get around early that I didn't get a save the date and, even later, didn't get an invite either. Tracy especially seemed to make sure everybody was aware that she wasn't happy about my exclusion. The other friends I spoke to didn't even suggest that it could have been a mistake, almost like they knew something I didn't, but didn't feel comfortable saying it. Only one person even spoke up on my behalf. Update. I have taken everyone's advice and brought it up with Tracy. She just confirmed that Lisa was full of it when she asked me why she didn't get my RSVP and wanted to absolve herself of guilt. I'm not sure if they forgot or if I just wasn't invited initially, but Tracy said we'd talk about it more tonight when she gets out of work. Final update. I spoke about it in depth with Tracy. It turns out Mark's best man, someone who was never in the gang but grew up with Mark, always hated me, and Mark thinks I'm annoying. Lisa later felt bad they chose not to invite me and pressured him to invite me over text, knowing I wouldn't be able to make it. Also, it wasn't only Tracy who thought it was wrong that I didn't get an invite. The chatter is what made Lisa ask me why I didn't RSVP, trying to make it seem like my invite was lost in the mail. It feels better knowing this because, like I said, they don't have to have people they don't want at their wedding. But knowing Mark doesn't like me hurts because I always thought we were friends. Turns out he's the phony. Unfortunately, everybody else, except for Tracy and a few others, liked Mark more than me, so they kind of felt like they had to choose a side after Tracy and a few others, it turns out, brought up why I didn't get invited. Lots of people are feeling guilty about this, apparently. They still felt like they had to choose a side for whatever reason, probably because most of them went to high school with Mark. Oh well, that's life. Thanks for the advice about being more assertive. Those of you who were polite about it were very helpful. Thanks. Yeah, you don't need those two-faced in your life. Congratulations on finding out before they borrowed money from you. When they get divorced, you can reach out to Mark and tell him that he deserves it. Opie, it's funny you bring up borrowing money because they're the type who always want to split the check when they order the most expensive things and always say, I'll get you back, and I don't trust Venmo. I'll just give you cash when I go to the ATM, and then don't. On the plus side, I don't have to pay for part of their steak and lobster dinners anymore. Will Opie invite Mark, Lisa, and the best man to his wedding, huh? Opie, I don't think it would be right to force anybody to choose sides, because that feels inappropriate to do to friends. I think everybody who stood up for me gets an invite. Mark can have his best man, and they can be the cynical bastards they are together. Honestly, nobody really likes the best man all that much because he's always acted like an obnoxious. When he's been around us, they can have each other. When told to talk to Mark directly and get it from the source, actually got confirmation and an apology from someone else. Not everybody was cool with it, but she's the only one who really has a spine and spoke up for me. Turns out they messed up and caused all kinds of drama between people in the group. Some people wanted to keep me out of the loop so I wouldn't feel insulted. I kinda get it, but it just makes me appreciate Tracy more. Ryan, in this situation, you aren't the bad guy from my perspective. And to be honest, a destination wedding is a dick move on your friend's part. The sheer inconvenience of one is like dick move supreme, especially the fact they chose NYC. WTF. Plus, some people turn into. After marriage. Statistically speaking, your married male friend is going to be spending more time with his wife now than his friends. In some ways, marriage is like high school. You go to A with your friends for a little while, then you start to drift away from one another by barely communicating. Opie, Lisa is from up there, and she wanted to be closer to her family. Yeah, it turns out they didn't want me there, and felt pressured once some of my friends realized. I guess it was easier to make the decision when it was just the two of them, and they lost confidence in the choice when people found out. Ryan, I feel it's best to let the consequences of this affect them and just move on. Opie, yeah, hopefully, they learn from this and aren't such. In the future, I don't see Mark ever changing from the cynical and negative guy he is, but you never know. My husband asked me to flash road workers. I did, and he became furious and pushed me out of the car. Was he being a jerk? We have been together 10 years and married for 6. For the last 2 or 3 years, he started to show less and less interest in me. He does subscribe to a couple of OnlyFans accounts, which I'm not bothered about, as it's no different to porn, so I know he still has sexual urges. I've tried talking to him a couple of times about this and told him I'm getting bored and frustrated. He knows I'm willing to try anything sexual, so if there's anything he wants to do to get him motivated, I'll try it. He just says, duly noted, and carries on with his day, which is frustrating. A few nights ago, we had friends round for tea, and we got onto the subject of commutes and roadworks, with them saying how their commute has more than doubled due to a road they use having roadworks. Carol, the wife of the couple, then said, "We found a way to make it more entertaining, though, haven't we?" to her husband, and they both started laughing. She then told us that the roadworks are about 3 miles long, with the groups of workers spread out into maybe 7 or 8 groups. They are normally going 10 to 15 miles per hour, so when they get near one of the groups, he beeps, she flashes them, and they all cheer. I couldn't believe it, as they seemed so straight-laced. That night, when they left, my husband was saying how brave it was of them, and that we should do it. The next morning, I asked if he was sure. This is a man who didn't like it when I posted a bikini pic on Facebook. He said yes, and we even had sex that night for the first time in months. He initiated it for the first time in years. The next morning, we were both off work, and as soon as he woke up, he mentioned me flashing. I asked if he was sure and if it wasn't just horny talk. What if the men don't want to be flashed? He said he was sure and that all men want to be flashed. We drove to the road, and we saw a group of workmen. My husband got all giddy and said, "Are you ready?" I said yes, and he said, "Now," and beeped his horn. I lifted my top up, and they all cheered. We were going about 10 miles per hour when suddenly he slammed his brakes on and told me to get out. I was in shock. His face was red with anger, and he was shouting, "Get out, you slag." I started crying, and he leaned over me, opening my car door. He then took off my seatbelt and started pushing me out. The cars behind were beeping as he had stopped traffic, and he was yelling at the top of his voice. By now, the workers had heard the commotion, and 2 of them were rushing over to help. I turned to look at them, and as I did, he pushed me really hard. The top half of my body fell out of the car, and I put my hands down. One of the workers was screaming at my husband and started trying to open his door. The other worker was by me and quickly dragged me out of the car. He told me afterwards he saw my husband put the car in gear and thought he was going to drive off with me hanging out of the car. My husband just left me. I was still only wearing a vest top, pajama shorts, and my slippers, as he'd wanted to rush out and do this. My phone was in his car, and I didn't have any house keys. One of the workers took his jacket off and wrapped me up in it. They took me to a cabin that was their canteen, put the heater on, and made me a cup of tea. I was so embarrassed. This lot had seen my boobs, then seen me getting abused, then seen me fall out of a car, and then rescued me, all in the space of 30 seconds. I kept apologizing to them and said it was his idea, but they said it was okay, that it happens a few times a day, and they are used to it. I think they were just trying to make me feel better. They were laughing and joking with me, and were all so sweet and funny. They asked if I wanted to ring anyone, but I don't know anyone's number apart from my work number, and I didn't want work picking me up wearing next to nothing from a building site. I asked if I could just ring a taxi, but they said I couldn't get in a taxi dressed how I was. The man I'm assuming was their team leader told one of them to drive me wherever I wanted to go, so I asked if I could go to my mom's house, about 5 miles away. They gave me some spare work boots to walk across the mud to the van. 2 of them drove me to my mom's. They were really sweet, made sure I was okay, and even walked me to the front door. When my mom answered, I was hysterical and crying. They told her my husband and I had an argument, and he left me by the side of the road. My mom offered them a drink, and I tried to give them their coat and boots back, but they said it was okay. I told my mom we were driving to McDonald's and got into an argument. I didn't tell her about the pushing or anything. She drove me home and let me in with a spare key she has. I packed some things and went back to my mom's. My husband had been home, as my phone was on the table. In the 5 days since, he's been ringing me nonstop, saying he's sorry and he doesn't know what came over him. He said he heard someone shout, "Nice pair," and it made him angry. My friends are saying leave him. He is obviously telling me to give him another chance. I'm 50-50, but if I do stay, I'm going to insist on couples counseling for us both and sex therapy, either for him or both of us. He says he doesn't want to involve other people in the relationship. It feels silly to throw it all away over a few seconds of madness, and perhaps I should have just said no when he asked me to flash, as I know he's quite insecure. I was blinded by finally getting some sex and attention from him and thought I could get more. I took the workers their jackets and boots back. I also made them 2 cakes and bought them 1,000 bags of Yorkshire tea as a thank you. TLDR, husband wanted me to flash. I did. He then physically pushed me out of the car, but says he's sorry. Commenter 1. I don't think any relationship advice will do anything to help your situation, nor will couples counseling. This is definitely the sort of situation where couples counseling will only escalate problematic, abusive behavior. What you need, quite frankly, is a divorce lawyer. OP. That's the thought that's becoming more prevalent in my mind. I took pics of the bruises and scuffs on my arms and legs afterwards, and I kept looking at them and thinking, what would I say to anyone else who showed me them? Commenter 2. You sound codependent on him and do everything he tells you to do to please him because you are terrified that he will leave you. Now you are in a situation where you did what he told you to do, but he ditched you anyway. He left you on the side of the road at the mercy of strangers whom you just flashed with nothing on you. That was very dangerous, and it makes me question if he wanted something to happen to you. This relationship isn't safe for you anymore, and that probably has been true for some time. He's abusive. He doesn't want to do couples counseling because he knows what they would tell you. It isn't wise to do that with him anyway because all that therapy is going to teach him are more weak points for him to take advantage of. Look for therapy for yourself. You know that he doesn't love you. That's why you accept all these behaviors from him. You can't make him love you by accepting his disrespect. You need to leave. It won't get better, it will get worse. Update. I took people's advice on this sub and a couple of others and rang the police to report the attack. I spoke to the workers beforehand, who said they would back me up. They arrested my husband and then released him on bail, but told him he couldn't stay at my house, so he's gone to his mom's. After the argument, he told all our friends that I had cheated. I hadn't wanted to admit to people that I had flashed, but I felt like the tide was really turning against me, and a lot of people were believing his lies. So, I wrote a long message with a description of exactly what happened, plus pictures of my injuries, including scrapes and bruises, plus screenshots of messages he sent admitting he asked me to flash and admitting he hit me. Although he did blame me, saying if I had just gotten out like he asked, he wouldn't have had to do that. A few people apologized. Most didn't, but I don't care anymore. I'm back home, and he has to answer bail in a couple of months. The police don't sound confident they can get a conviction, but maybe that's how they are supposed to sound. I've spoken a little bit to a lawyer, but I can't really afford anything at the minute in that way. It has been a sad few weeks, but an eye-opener, and I don't feel any guilt for getting the police involved or telling people what happened. I'm just working and keeping myself busy at the moment. TLDR, I informed the police about the assault, and he had to leave my house. OP. On the workers who rescued her luckily, the road worker was a big, strong guy. He picked me up and got me out of the way like I was as light as a feather. That's the bit that plays on my mind the most. He drove off a split second after I was out of the car, and the door was still open. I think, in his mind, I was still half in the car when he drove off. Question. Can OP go to a safe place and away from her husband? Opie, I don't think I need protection. My brother is staying with me now, and he could beat up 10 of my husbands with one hand. Plus, I feel like there are more deserving people than me who need a charity's help. Question. Opie telling the police what happened and how they have responded? Opie, I did tell the police exactly what happened, as did the workmen. Believe it or not, the police didn't care about me showing flesh. They cared more about me getting beaten up and nearly run over.